Good evening. I would like to call the South Bend Common Council Monday, February 14th meeting to order. Due to the executive order by Indiana Governor Holcomb, the South Bend Common Council meeting will be closed to the public and available by way of virtual meetings using the Microsoft Teams meeting app. Public access to the meeting can be granted by the Microsoft Teams application. Clerk Jones, would you like to make a statement?
Yes. Good evening, members of the public. For audio quality, we will be muting everyone not speaking by default to maintain good audio quality for council members as well as yourselves. If you would like to speak during the meeting on a specific agenda item, please submit your request to speak in the chat, and directions to do so are located in the chat. We ask that you provide your full name and address as those are required for all speakers at in-person meetings. If you would like to be called on during the meeting to provide public input, again, please insert your name and address in the chat, and you'll be called on during the relevant time for public input. You will be given 5 minutes to speak during public input. For citizens that wish to speak during the privilege of the floor, please insert into the chat during that time your name and your address. And the council president will call on you. And during the privilege of the floor, you have 3 minutes to speak. Please be sure to unmute yourself prior to giving your remarks.
Thank you, Clerk Jones. Disrespectful, rude, or disruptive speech or actions will not be tolerated. Such speech and actions, as well as verbal attacks on any person, may result in the individual without notice forfeiting the remainder of his or her allotted time. At this time, we will have the invocation by Heather Gormley, the pastor of Angelicon Church. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you. It's great to be with you. And I'm the pastor of Tree of Life Anglican Church.
Thank you.
Glad to be able to pray with you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, you sent your Son among us to proclaim the kingdom of God in cities, towns, villages, and lonely places. Behold and bless, we pray, the community of South Bend, Indiana. On this St. Valentine's Day, we ask you to renew the bonds of charity that hold our civic life. Send down on those who hold public office, especially Kenneth, Henry, Sharon, Troy, Sheila, Eli, Karen, Lori, Rachel, James, and all who assist them in their service, the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. We ask especially that you would send your spirit to assist tonight's Common Council meeting. Open ears and hearts that there may be clarity in disagreement and discernment in all decisions. O Lord, help us to cooperate with you in delivering all people in South Bend from poverty, prejudice, and oppression. House the homeless. Let the immigrant be welcomed among us. Shelter our children and young people. Give students and teachers safe joy and creativity in our schools. Watch over those suffering from abuse, neglect, and loneliness. Give those tempted to violence the strength to resist, and grant our law enforcement officers courage, integrity, and compassion. And empower, O Lord, all those who care for the sick with life-giving knowledge and compassion. And at last, bring us to your holy city, the New Jerusalem, where we shall know perfect unity and peace. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Jones, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Davis is as excused absence. Councilmember Lee.
Present.
Councilmember Warner.
Present.
Councilmember Wax.
Present.
Councilmember White.
Present.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan.
Present.
Councilmember Hammond.
Present.
Vice President Noskoski,
Present.
President McBride.
Present.
8 present.
Thank you. Now we will have the reports from the subcommittee on minutes from January 10th, 2022, and January 24th, 2022.
Report of subcommittees on minutes. To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the January 10th, 2022 and January 24th, 2022 and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Noskoski,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Motion's carried. I would like to announce, if you are listening and are present for Bill 2211, per the petitioner, Councilwoman Lori Hammond, the bill has been tabled to February 28th, 2022. And also, if you are present for Bill 132-21, the bill is petitioned on behalf of the petitioner by zoning and annexation indefinitely. Thank you. Special business. I would like to welcome the Youth Council for being on the call this evening, and they are here particularly joining via Teams to listen to the mayor's presentation on his address about the finances, and they have to write a paper on what they have heard. So we would like to say welcome to them. And Clerk Jones, could we have the roll call of the Youth Council?
Yes, and I do know that some are at other like sporting events that they are involved with. But I'll begin by calling Youth Council Member Alexis Salt, Youth Council Member Alondra Correa, Youth Council Member Fatima Aguilar, Youth Council Member Gabriel Kemp,
Present.
Youth Council Member Joseph Bruschi,
Present.
Youth Council Member Caitlin Nicholson,
Present.
Youth Council Member LaRonda Kindred,
Present.
Youth Council Member Lexi Lispy, Youth Council Member Solomon Vasquez,
Present.
Youth Council Member Zoe Nicholson.
Present.
Thank you so much, and welcome again. At this time, reports from the city. We would like to welcome Mayor James Mueller to provide a statement of finances. Welcome, Mayor.
Good evening, council members, and happy Valentine's Day. I know there's a lot of love in this room and online, but I'm sorry you have to spend it with me here, but I'll be as quick as possible, and there's a lot of good news and things ahead, and so hopefully that can at least speak up, and you can tell your significant others, that the mayor kept you longer than you would have liked, so you can feel free to blame me for why you're not able to be spending time with them right now. But it's also exciting to be here this is the third year where I've come before council. Last year was virtual, and so it's great that we're moving back into more normality, and hopefully this is, we'll be more in person in the near future as well. But City Controller Dan Parker is remote controlling the show here, so if you don't mind moving to the next slide, we can get started. So we want to take a step back and just see where we are as a city and where we've come from over the past decade or so. And of course, we were excited last year to confirm the fact that South Bend is a growing city once again with the official 2020 census results. And there you see the somewhat modest growth, but it picked up toward the end of the decade. Now, I did go back and look at last year's slide with the similar data. So the one with the projection for 2020 was actually shown to be a slight decrease from the previous year, and yet you see a big jump there. So the models are still catching up to the growth that's happening and what's going on in South Bend. So we do hope that even though the models are projecting just a slight growth, that we can continue that trajectory that we've seen in the past couple of years. Other good news is median household income, per capita incomes have also been going up. So not only are we getting more people, but we're also increasing the incomes of the people that are here. Similarly, lower income brackets, our poverty rate has been dropping. We're still above the national average, of course, but we're going in the right direction, and we want to continue to see us go in that direction and working on a lot of things to move that. Of course, there's also the macro economy. We can't, as much as I would love and you would love as city government to take credit for all of this. Past 10 years was a long expansion until the pandemic hit, as well as we've seen rapid growth since the dip in the pandemic. So Dan, if you go to the next slide, we can see how we're doing on our recovery. So you'll all recall that when things first hit, we got some model from Oxford Economics about what are they did a lot of different scenarios, but we thought these were the two most likely scenarios. So either a quick growth rebound, which is the top light blue line, or the muted recovery, which is the dark blue line. And we've been following this journey over the past couple of years now. And we had, when we made our budget for 2021, we assumed, we did what anyone good would do. You just take the average of these are the two likely scenarios, and we just assumed we'd be somewhere in the middle. So we were in the middle for a while, but now over the past couple quarters, we've started to get closer and closer to that top recovery line. So the recovery has been strong. We know that not everyone is feeling it. We've certainly seen public sentiment not feeling good and feeling sour about the economy. But by all means, in terms of what's been going on, not just here, but across the country, astonishing number of jobs being created at a record pace, and certainly economic output following as well. Dan, if you want to go to the next slide. And the next one. We'll just quickly go over some of the 2021 highlights. There are a lot of things we could focus on here, but being the financial update for the council, we'll focus on numbers and dollars as much as possible. The state of the city, which will have a broader look at what's going on in the city, believe we've got it scheduled for April 26th at 6 p.m. So we'll have more of a broader look at going on. But here we like to dive into finances and numbers. So on the economic recovery, some of the efforts of the team. If you recall, we received some CARES Act funding in 2020 from the EDA, the U.S. Department of Economic Development, to provide COVID emergency funding for local businesses. And I believe the award was just over $7 million, and the team's been working hard and gotten $6.5 million of those dollars out the door already. It's hard to, time goes by pretty quickly, but we thank the council for helping us get our innovation grants for restaurants up and going. And if you recall, 138 restaurants partook in that program and totaled $276,000 to an industry that was hit particularly hard with all the safety measures for the public health emergency. We've also were able to move forward with, we've had the facade grant program in corridors, and we've expanded the number of corridors that are eligible over the last few years. But we were able to do 10 projects last year with roughly one-to-one public-private match, going for $500,000 of investment into our corridor facades. We also, if you recall, as part of the how do we bring the life back to the city and make outdoor dining and other things, in addition to the innovation program, we had a hit refresh in partnership with DTSB, 14 grants, and that leveraged private investment a little more than our normal corridor facade grants, and you see almost $1 million of private investment going toward off of roughly just under $250,000 of public investment. Tax abatements, still, thank you for your support of one of our best economic development tools that we have, and it spurred $78 million of private investment, 441 jobs, and I know you guys took a look recently, but it's just phenomenal how great this tool has worked for us over the past number of years, and of the 35 active real property tax abatements, we've seen an increase in total assessed value from $18.4 million to $122.1 million, and so that means $3 more million in property taxes that we're collecting because of those investments. As you know, we also thank the council for approving the expanded utility assistance program that will help those most vulnerable households manage their utility bills, as well as get through some of the. We'll talk in short order about relief of bills that are overdue. In addition, we embarked on an ambitious 3-year Rebuild Streets initiative last year, and again, thank you for approving the financing for that. We were able to deploy $9.9 million in 2021 and touch 129 or over 129 lane miles, and that's about just over 10% of our, or just under 10% of our lane miles. So that program is moving forward, and this year, thank you to the council members who sit on the Redevelopment Commission for the strategy does involve some redevelopment dollars to fully fund the program, and so we're excited for another good year in 2022. We can't stress the significance of this development enough, but we finally were able to finalize the new long-term control plan for combined sewer overflows in our city, and the new plan with innovative and green infrastructure will save our ratepayers $437 million. And then finally, some other good news that will continue on and be a theme of 2022, but we were one of a few reasons in the state of Indiana to get the maximum $50 million award for the South Bend Elkhart region. And last year, when they were putting together the application of the state, they did a pre-award request for proposals, and over $1 billion projects in our region were submitted. So we actually expect, and we've heard more since that request, so we actually expect there may be more demand for projects than there was last year. So that's great news. A lot of things potentially in the pipeline here, and that's going to require, we're still getting the details from the state on how that will be structured, but it's similar to regional cities that we had a few years ago. It was usually a 20% match from the state, 20% match from the localities, and then the rest would be private investment. Dan, you get the next slide? All right, so now we're deep into how we did on the finances, and so if you look at the right, just the net, how things went, you'll see for the most part, that we're not only not in the red, we are strongly in the black. And if you remember to how we budgeted for 2021 a year and a half ago, there was a lot of uncertainty about where the economy was going. There was a lot of uncertainty about what kind of assistance would come from the federal and state levels. And so in the top line, the general plus funds, which are our basic operations funds for the government, ended up with a $9.9 million surplus. There are other factors too. Property taxes, again, rebounded, or property values and property taxes went fairly well, especially compared to our longer past. as well as incomes did rebound faster than we would have thought. And as you saw on the line of our recovery, the faster, we assume we were in the middle of those two lines, and whenever we go above those two lines, we're doing better than expected. The other piece of it is on expenditures. We also, there's a lot of things, there was a lot of uncertainty in terms of what big projects were coming up, and you know, just some of the other major projects that didn't fully get their dollars expended in 2021 or even move forward in 2021. So whether you're you know, waiting to see what would happen with the infrastructure bill or rescue plan dollars or whatever, there are a lot of, as you know, there are a lot of projects in the pipeline. Some of those you know, didn't happen in 21, or sometimes some of the expenditures literally just didn't get out the door before December 31st. So they've been spent, but they just haven't left the door by the cutoff here. Finally, you know, on the bottom there, you probably also notice, well, there's two things. The going first in the middle, the enterprise funds, wastewater, sewer, and waterworks, and solid waste. If you recall, we did a transfer of ARP dollars to make solid waste, you know, get out of the hole, and make sure that we didn't have to raise rates as soon as we needed to if we didn't make that transfer, as well as there was the transfer into ARP for the relief and the utility assistance program to waterworks and wastewater and sewer. So that's a part of it as well. Again, they're from our rates discussion last year, there's a big capital plan in the near term where a lot of these dollars will get spent, but you know, those take a lot of time for planning, design, and all the rest. So those will be coming in the next year or so. And then finally, you look at the redevelopment funds, and again, it's good news in terms of a rebound, and these are mostly property taxes that came in last year a lot stronger than had we want to continue to leverage what we have, so we want to continue to leverage interest rates and our debt position to make strong investments and increase the growth here. But you can't say, and we certainly don't want to necessarily be, we want to invest. If you were this household, would you keep the cash in the savings account, or would you try to start investing them in higher return portfolio? So that's something that we'll be looking to do, and something we've talked about during the budget process. Which, speaking of which, next slide, please, Dan. Just to remind the discussions during the budget process, we're here at a moment in time where we really do feel that this can be a generational opportunity for transformation of our community. And at the top there, you see the priorities from the budget: strong neighborhoods, safe community for everyone, robust, sustainable infrastructure, equitable access to opportunity, youth and workforce development, and then a leading city team. And then below, you just see all of the things that are going, kind of wind at our backs, propelling us forward. The macro economy, I know, again, public sentiment isn't as strong as what the numbers actually show. Record job growth, just across the board, lots of things to be excited about, but know that it hasn't fully hit home yet. We do know that the headwinds are that inflation, prices have gone up faster than they've gone up in a number of decades, and there is a potential of the Federal Reserve to pump the brakes with raising interest rates in the next year or so. But nevertheless, as of now, things are moving forward. We see growth here in our population that we haven't seen in a long while. We can take advantage of low interest rates while they're here. We maintain our healthy reserves, and the federal and state resources are going to continue to trickle down here, because just like us, all of these resources, they can't get it out the door all at once. And so even the infrastructure bill, for example, is spending over 7 years or so. So those will continue to make their way to communities and South Bend. And then the summary of where we ended up, if you can recall, back to October, November. But we know essential operations form a large part of what we do. So a third of our budget is just going to maintaining the essential services. You could add debt service, investments we'd already made, paying those off 10%. Interfund transfers really fund the internal operations, employee health, liability, other pieces of the operation. So again, pretty critical. You can't do too much with that. The self-insurance is over there in purple too. Then just maintaining what we have to make sure that our equipment and other things are functioning the way we want. And then the final quarter plus is strategic spending. And this year we were blessed to have more strategic spending in the form of American Rescue Plan dollars. So a lot going on there, and of course a big focus on our neighborhoods, $78.1 million, or 64% of all strategic spending going toward our neighborhoods. So I'm almost done. We'll just quickly go through some upcoming items. We're getting near, if you've been tracking our numbers here locally and nationally, the cases are dropping rather quickly, and the transmission rate, or what they call R0, so the speed at which cases are spreading, we are moving to the lowest levels we've seen in the pandemic as we drop off the number of cases. So in the coming weeks, we'll anticipate an end of the declared health emergency and deal with the related measures for that. I mentioned earlier that we received the $50 million as a region for READY, and that process should get going here in the next couple of months. The state is still sorting out some details, but once that gets going, there will be a lot of things of interest, and we'll have to find ways to come up with our 20% match for a number of whichever projects do succeed. We've also talked about the school's capital projects, so of course there's the administration building move that we've talked about, but also working with the schools on the career center that was talked about during the referendum conversations, and schools are looking to move forward with that in the next year or so. So that will be coming down the line. Lighting, we will be, AEP in partnership with our electric company, will be replacing their bulbs to LEDs later this year. Later this month or early next month, they will do for a week, they'll have up kind of a few blocks to see the new lights. And so we'll want to get you guys out there and our neighbors out there to see the new lights, those who are interested. And then they'll move forward on the full plan to change out the rest of the lights. Once LED lights are able to provide more light, or you want more light, and then until you have too much light, and then you don't want as much light. So we're trying to get that right balance, but because it has the potential for more light, we want to see these get in place before we see where the gaps are in our existing light infrastructure. So the first step, there'll be this kind of pilot at the end of the month, early next month. We'll get details, have you guys come out, encourage others to come out to see it. Then it's pretty crazy how many lights going around, changing them all out in the city in a matter of a few months. But then the next few months, they'll spend changing them out. And then we'll look to see what gaps we have and see where we need to be adding more lighting. So lots on lighting, but it's an exciting year for lighting. And so those who have been talking about lighting, this should be a good year for you. Similarly, rebuilding our streets, we annually do the ratings. We're going to see how many streets, if they've maintained their rating or whether they've deteriorated. I've heard from a couple council members about streets that weren't supposed to be in bad condition yet that already are in condition that need attention. The other piece of this is we've talked about all the great things about expanding, the recovery, expansion, all these dollars. Well, the rising prices also impact our ability to meet our objectives here. So we'll want to do an assessment. Early indications are that costs per lane mile will be up from what we had anticipated when we budgeted and when we came up with the plan. So we may have to come back later this year and revisit where we are and whether we put further funding to keep the schedule that we put forth. The Housing Authority development, if you read the paper this morning, they're looking at ambitious project over where the Rabbi Shulman building sits, as well as the Monroe Circle housing. It's still, they did an RFP. I think we've talked about that for a developer to come in to help them work out the details, and I believe they're close, if not having selected a developer, and then it comes down to putting the pieces together. What is the gap? There was hope that there would be, at one point there was hope that the Build Back Better plan would pass, and there was a lot of housing funding within that package. With the future of that uncertain, obviously the moniker Build Back Better is dead for better or worse, but there are a lot of popular programs in Build Back Better that may find a new life in the coming months. So we'll be watching that closely, but there are programs that already exist in the normal, in a normal federal budget that hopefully the Housing Authority can tap into that, as well as looking at how the city can best partner with them to make that happen. But it would be, and I know it would be affordable housing. I know there've been talk of a developer coming in sometimes raises that this is changing from an affordable housing situation to market rate, but it would be these would be affordable housing units managed by the Housing Authority. We'll also, in we're working on revising the housing program strategy for 2022. And this was, we took a little bit of a relook after the salary ordinance, and we thank the council for taking another look at the salary ordinance and moving on that. But we trying to figure out how best, we took the message loud and clear to figure out what's sustainable and what is the best way to spend these dollars. So we'll want to come back to you and talk about our housing program strategy that is a little different than you know, what wasn't able to go forward in the budget process. The neighborhood plan implementation, so that we're looking to find how to finance all the different pieces of our neighborhood plans. And as you know, there's 3 that we did last year that will be finishing up the final reports and look for action. And we'll do more this year, as well as begin the comprehensive planning process for the city. But those plans come with you know, discrete ideas for how to move these neighborhoods forward. So we'll look to come up with a financing plan with all of you and which projects are of highest priority, and hope to move that forward later this year. County partnerships on homelessness and mental health. Again, starting with the Mental Health Crisis Center, I know the county team and the Sheriff Redmond and Dr. Bob Einturns and others and our health providers are working on this. And so this is moving forward. We don't have an exact idea of what the city's contribution, but it seems somewhere in the $2.5 million range. If you recall, we appropriated just under $6 million for county partnerships on mental health and homelessness. The county has also moved forward with some support for Youth Service Bureau and Center for the Homeless. And so those are things we're taking a look at when we talk about county partnerships. And then, of course, the Intake Center is something that's moving forward. Don't have all the details or on capital or operations, but I know there are a lot of folks working hard on trying to get those details. But the county has passed, so the Mental Health Crisis Center and the Intake Center, there's not a concrete thing that's moving forward at this time, even though it is being worked on actively. But the Youth Service Bureau and the Center for the Homeless projects have gotten approval from the county council for their ARP dollars, and some of those dollars had contemplated some level of city partnership. So those are things we need to work through and discuss, and maybe even have some sort of council committee meeting on that in the near future. Kovaleski upgrades, as you recall, we got the state to form the professional sports development tax, and so that we started collecting revenues toward the end of last year, and we anticipate getting about $2 million a year from that. The first order of business is take care of the pieces that allow us to maintain our minor league team. So we're upgrading lighting right now, and then there are a number of other improvements to maintain our status. But then there's also conversations about whether to expand the seating and the structure at Kovaleski. So that's a little bit longer term, but that's on the radar, and continue working through that. And then finally, we talked about in the rate conversation that there are a lot of capital improvements that have to be made. So on the sewer side, we've got to meet our new requirement. Even we're saving money from the old requirement of the long-term control plan, but there is still a substantial amount of investment we have to do over the next 20 years. And so the next phase of it will be funded, and we'll need to finance it based off of the most recent rates. Similarly, water, we'll be looking to move forward on water capital improvements in the next year or so as well. So the list is kind of in rough chronological order, but with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for your presentation. Very thorough and easy to follow. At this time, I'll turn it over to Council. You have 2 questions for the Mayor. I'll start with Councilwoman Rachel Thomas Morgan. You have any questions for the Mayor?
Thank you, President McBride. Thank you, Mayor, for being with us this evening and for your presentation report. I don't have any questions at this point. Just want to absorb all this, and I may end up with one after I hear what colleagues have to ask.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll move to Councilman Troy Warner.
Thank you. Excuse me. I think back to 2 years ago when we sat here right before the pandemic, and we knew that the economy was shrinking and crunching, and none of us had any idea what was really coming, but we kind of, through that year braced for, back to the very first slide from Mr. Parker, that kind of very worst case muted scenario, and I'm amazed at where we are. We've been very fortunate and have handled the finances well. Excited to see those numbers, and the ARP to add to that, and the ready grants, and the opportunity to kind of use that to leverage additional investment, which could potentially just bring in even more growth. It's very exciting, but I don't have any questions. It's just good to kind of see those, and I kind of, as the chair of Personnel Finance last year, got a little, I spent almost as much time with Mr. Parker as my wife, so I got a little insight of what was going on, but
Yeah.
to see it all put together now is great. Thank you.
Councilman Wax.
Thank you, President McBride, and thank you, Mayor Mueller, for your presentation. I overall, while we don't always agree on how the city spends its money, I do appreciate in the fiscal responsibility that the city's clearly showing through, especially throughout the difficult or uncertain past couple years. Something though, and you brought it up a couple times in specific cases, we're seeing a national problem of inflation. A few months ago, the hope was that it was transitory. It's seeming more and more clear that that isn't the case, and I think the most recent numbers is over 7%. So while the current economic forecast just from the dollars and cents looks good, especially if you were comparing it to other years, I worry that at least in the short term, it may not be as rosy as it looks right now. And so you discussed how you would address, or that you need to look at it again specifically with streets, but is there a broader conversation happening as more holistic on how we're going to address this issue?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, there was a hope that this was more temporary and a growing pain of our recovery. And to some extent, obviously it will correct. I mean, it's going to correct one way. There's a number of different ways that this corrects, right? And the Federal Reserve does seem poised to put on the brakes if it doesn't, start sorting itself out. But this will go, so there's the rosy side of where we are from our cash position and across the board on our financial position. But the good news in this kind of problem is our revenues will increase because of the inflation. We won't see the increased revenues from the inflationary effects of wages, home, property values. We won't see those for a couple of years. So in this case, it's actually a positive from our cash and financial position that, whatever happens, we're going to see, we'll see those impacts down the road, and that'll be a positive way on the revenue side. In the more nearer term, you saw our worker account, and you saw, and we'll see what kind of bids come back when we go out to bid for different projects and services. And that's something we'll have to navigate. I think, prices are going to go up. Wages are probably going to, if we're going to stay competitive and fill spots, we'll probably have to keep looking at that, just as the private sector has been looking. But right now, I think we're trying to see the level of the impact that it's going to have on us, and it does feel like getting contractors to do projects is going to be difficult in the next couple of years, as we have all these projects that we hope to do. So that's going to be a piece that's going to take a lot of time. Our community investment department is figuring out how do we get more, for that specific problem, is how do we get more people into the pipeline so that we can try to alleviate some of those labor issues on the contracting side. On the hiring side, as an employer, I mean, that's going to, as we do, some positions are more competitive than others, and particularly IT and or financial services, where you can kind of do the same job no matter whether you're in a public service industry or not. Those will probably be harder to compete with. We'll have to look at those more closely. Where there's more of a feel of the public service and what you're giving back, that's something that the pandemic has helped, in the sense of workers that are leaving a lot of jobs are looking for meaning, are looking for more fulfillment. And so the reward, the more that a job is connected to the reward of being in public service, the less issues the money is. But on those positions where it's more, they could be doing roughly the same thing, don't feel, the same level of connection to the public service mission, those are going to be more challenging. And that's something we're really going to have to look at, see how bad this labor shortage for us gets. And we know it's bad broadly. The question is, how bad does it get for the city of South Bend?
Thank you. I'll reserve my other one for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lee?
Thank you, President McBride, and thank you, Mayor, for being here. Thank you for the presentation and just being able to see the impact that the decisions that your office and the decisions that council make, and how it's helping South Bend to come through one of the worst economic situations that we've seen in a generation. Can you tell us what kind of impact the innovation grants gave to businesses? I know that from the ones that I spoke with, but what input has your office received from those innovation grants?
Well, it came, it's hard to remember because that was almost a little over a year ago now already, believe it or not. But it came at a time that was really critical for, if you remember back then, that was our biggest wave of infections over the winter last year. The federal aid wasn't obvious that there was going to be help coming from there in addition to what had already come. And so it was, for some, it was just the timing and the critical, where they just needed help to make their business make it through that period of time. I know a lot of them have said it was critical, and appreciated the city and council and everyone coming forward to make it happen. And we also appreciate all the help getting the word out. It's what's crazy sometimes is, whether it's programs to assist residents or programs to assist businesses, we have it. We think we're getting the word out, and it's just sometimes, unless you go there and talk to the individual personally, it just doesn't always translate into an application. And we tried to make that application as easy as possible because of that, but do think all the efforts to get the word out, because I think that made a difference. Otherwise, there would have been folks who needed it that just didn't get connected to it.
Just the impact input from people was that was the easiest transaction to do with the city, and it made an impact. And the other thing is, everyone criticizes tax abatements, but I was just really, I wanted to make sure that number is right, is that the 2021 tax abatements spurred is it $78 million of business and 441 jobs?
Yeah, I mean, that's the number. But then the other number of active tax abatements is even more stark.
Thank you.
I will now turn to the council online. Councilwoman Karen White, I'll start with you.
Thank you, President McBride. Thank you, Mayor, for your presentation. I can't wait to read through the slide presentations. The only question that I have, I do recall in 2020, when we started the budget process, there was a slide that indicated that it will take us until 2023 to reach structural balance. So where are we at now based on all the information and all the gains, which is very encouraging? When you look at where we're at from a financial perspective, is that year 2023 still realistic, or are we still going to be somewhat cautious moving forward?
Well, that's a great question. I'm trying to think how best to answer this question. So the 2022 budget, as you recall, had a budgeted deficit. In the general plus funds, I think it was close to $6 million or so. And then the other funds, some of those are capital funds that it's okay, that's a deficit. You want to spend down your capital funds. Added, a large debt on paper, but really is just a spend down of capital funds. But if we just focus on the general operations, general plus funds, we budgeted a $6 million deficit, but we actually budgeted a deficit in 2021 and ended up with more cash at the end of the year than we started, even if you exclude the rescue plan dollars. And so, we also talked about how we've been conservatively budgeting for revenue on those property tax increases of the past few years. We weren't always certain that they would continue in the same way for a number of reasons. But now because every time we make a conservative assumption, we've been getting good news, even in the worst of the past couple of years, where there's we get an unexpected additional income tax distribution, or property tax receipts come in much stronger than we are anticipating. So now that we have the $6 million budgeted deficit for 2022, and we're making more, I don't know if it's aggressive, but more, we're confident that there's a growth trajectory here in our revenue streams, then that means that $6 million deficit is more real than when we were conservatively budgeting for revenue. We ended up with a surplus. So in actuality, we had a surplus last year, even though we had a budget deficit.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate your response and also the presentation. And we'd like to thank all of the city employees for all the hard work and the time that they have committed, especially during the pandemic. And as you begin to look at where we're at financially, it took the whole team working together. So very appreciative. Clearly, individuals, they love to work with figures, and it shows. Good information.
Thank you so much. At this time, I'll turn over to Councilwoman Lori Hammond.
Thank you, President McBride, and thank you, Mayor, for your presentation. It was a wonderful amount of information. The only question that I would have, as the Federal Reserve is now toying with the notion of increasing interest rates, I know that that will help to increase our returns on our investments, but I'm also wondering if there is a negative side to that we would see on any of the bonds or anything along those lines.
Yeah, that's a great question, and especially when we're considering a number of capital investments that would require bond financing. In an ideal world, we'd have all, all of the design and pieces together to be able to go out sooner rather than later, knowing that the Fed is likely to increase rates. But, I mean, to put this in historic perspective, though, even over the course of the next 6 months to a year, when you're talking about what kind of interest rates, they're still very low historically. So, the difference of, even let's just say it goes up by 1% over, the next 10, 12 months. 1%, it has an impact for sure, but it probably, if you want to compare it to the impact of if costs don't start, if the inflation doesn't come down, every moment of delay of a project or anything is going to well outswamp the increase of cost of interest by 1%. So they're not going to impact our existing debt that we have, but they could make it more costly for future financing. But we don't anticipate anything anything crazy. Then of course, if interest rates go skyrocket, then that's something, maybe debt is not a good tool for us. So that's something that we need to monitor and see what the rate is and what the project is, and does it make sense to use debt financing.
Thank you, Mayor. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Councilwoman Vice President Sheila Niskoski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mayor Mueller, for giving us the presentation this evening. A lot of good information, a lot of numbers. Mr. Parker must have been very busy putting everything together, as well as yourself, I'm sure.
It's all Mr. Parker, yeah.
Yeah. As Councilwoman White had alluded to or spoke to, what a challenging year it's been the last couple of years. So I really don't have a question other than to say it has been very challenging. I know it's been challenging for all of the city employees that work for the city, especially our firefighters and police officers, as well as the council. When we all came on here, we was only started for a couple months, and then we're in a pandemic. So the city finances, it looks like the decisions that were made has kept us very solvent and strong to help have us a strong community. The lighting, I'm very glad happy to see that lighting. And I'll be interested moving forward once they do all the replacements, what that looks like as far as identifying the other areas in town that could use that lighting, especially as a means of helping deter crime and that type of thing, and perhaps working with our law enforcement. They work all over the city. I'm sure they have a good idea. And the housing, affordable housing, so key. So just a couple observations from my end, and I really thank you for your presentation and for Mr. Parker's hard work.
Thank you so much. And Councilman Wax kind of touched on my question, and you answered it. It was talking more about the closing the gap about the economic recovery. So I know that you guys have plans for that, and so I'm looking forward to hearing that in the future. With that, I will ask if the council have any additional comments before we move on. Councilwoman Thomas Morgan.
Thank you, President McBride. Thanks for circling back. I did have a question as you were speaking, Mayor, that came back to me, and that kind of setting aside the financials, although your answer may include it, I was wondering what efforts there are to debrief, evaluate, kind of pull lessons learned from emergency response during the pandemic with the county, with the COVID response team, in order to help us, for future disasters and plan forward. Are there any conversations or efforts underway?
Well, there are a lot of things that we've learned, and some that unfortunately the pandemic has divided our ability to respond. But so there's the response itself. I mean, I think there are a lot of lessons learned there, and the county is working with the cities and others to tune up that machinery for potentially other disasters. So that's a big piece, whether it's our emergency management agency in the county or our health department or, just the other units of government that need to come together in emergencies. So that's one we did. It was a good crash course in how those those entities come together and are able to work together to get through an emergency. There's that. Then there's also, I think you're talking about the broader responses and maybe even some of the economic responses. I know our innovation team has been trying to track as best we can, outputs and outcomes to the extent possible of different programs. But I think, and again, this is not quantitative, but if you talk to our downtowns got hit pretty hard by the pandemic, downtowns across the country. But if you talk to our downtown business owners, it's not, no one's happy about what's, the economy getting hit and all these things. But I think they would agree that we've weathered the storm about as well as anyone across the country. And we did take, we took the public health emergency seriously here, but we also made sure that we were able to do things as we could. And so I think those were important lessons to learn. And how do you balance? How do you balance things that are sometimes in contradiction as you go? I don't know that there's some things that are hard to, there were playbooks for pandemics, and we took some of those, but some of them it's not obvious of what was the right decision. I think along the way, a lot of these were impossible decisions, and in my view, it's unfortunate a lot of the impossible decisions got punted to local health officers to a large extent, and I don't know if that was necessarily the fairest way to approach management of a global pandemic, but that's how it turned out. You would hope for a little more of a coordinated response at higher levels, but by and large, a lot of good, there's a lot of positive things that came through in our response, and hopefully we'll be able to respond to the next one just as well, or if not better.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Lee?
Yes, I just, my final comments is this. I think a lot of times we allow, we don't give ourselves the benefit of the doubt or the credit for making it through one of the toughest times in our country's history. So for us to go through a pandemic, first-time mayor, new council members, and be able to stand here today and say, we have a surplus, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. It says a lot. It says a lot to all of the many people who have worked in our community to keep it going. And I just believe in us operating as a team and celebrating the fact that it took all of us working together and all of the city employees working together to put South Bend in this position. And I just want to say that, it should be you all should be commended on the work and the effort to keep our city from going under, and we can actually look and see that things are getting better. So I just want to say I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone who's had to work on the council and the administration and throughout our city to get us to this point. And if we continue to work as a team and work together, there's so many other great things that's going to happen for our city. So I'm optimistic.
Thank you. Finally, I echo that. I remember sitting here and was talking about the fiscal cliff, and it turned out to be a fiscal curve. And that took a lot of intentional planning and strategic planning. And there are unprecedented dollars that has come and then continue to come into our community, and still going through all of this and maintaining order and to still provide services to our citizens is unfounded. So I, again, thank you for that.
All right. Well, thank you. And you know, I think you've heard me say it in other contexts that, you know, we've made it through, like I said, the emergency is coming to an end. We've made it through a public health emergency. We've made it through the economic emergency. Now, you know, we have other issues, but we've made it through that initial emergency. But the social emergency is going to continue on, and we're going to have to work through that for some time to come. Unfortunately, you know, the public health, there's, you know, science, and there's different pieces that kind of clear of what to do, what not to do. It's very tangible. You know, eventually you get a vaccine that works. The economics, it's a good field. People know how to, we've had recessions in the past, you know, figured out how to boost the economy through tough times. But social emergency, these are things that have been tough for us to tackle in the best of times, and certainly the last couple of years have been difficult for a lot of people, and we're gonna have to continue to be all hands on deck to tackle those challenges together. But thank you all, and if that's
I think,
it.
Mayor, lastly, I'm
Yep.
sorry, I forgot to say, I'm glad to see that we had the mental health piece up there in the partnership with the county, because you're talking about a lot of people during this time that suffered mental health issues and trauma and grief, even just being closed up during the pandemic, or have lost their jobs or loved ones. So to see that the city is in partnership, because there's a lot of things that I think that administration with the council and the community can work together to try to reach some of those people, to tap into mental health resources and to get them counseling or help, or having seminars for the public. Those are things that I would hope that we could do to reach out to the ones who are still going through pain. Because I know even with ourselves, we get cabin fever and, you know, caught up in this time that has happened, because it has affected all of us. So I'm just glad to see that that was on there. Thank you again.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, thank you. All right. We will move right on. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to rise to the Committee of the Whole.
Second.
It has been moved in second. Clerk Jones, could you take the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax, Councilmember White,
Aye, and I did have my hand up for a question, but I wait till after the roll call.
Councilmember.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Councilwoman White?
Yes, I was just wanting to say that we do have our youth council members on board, and they are high school students, and I don't know how long we would want them to remain. I do think that they have enough information that they can complete their reflection paper, but also I do know that they have school tomorrow. I'll let them make that decision to remain, or they can go and visit the recording as well. So I just want to, you know, let them know that I appreciate them being here, but academics do come first.
You are such an educator. Thank you so much. If you have to get off, we welcome you and thank you for staying on. We appreciate you. All right, with that being said, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, the Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council's meeting where bills are given a second reading and public hearing. I wish to share with you that bills that will be given a second reading and public hearing have been given a first reading and set for a committee meeting and public hearing prior to this evening's meeting. In addition, you will hear from the chairperson of the committee where the bill was discussed and the results of their discussion. If the proposed ordinance is a zoning ordinance, a report from a staff member will be given. In all other situations, the formal presentation of the proposed ordinance will immediately follow the committee report. The formal presentation shall be untimed. We had on the docket Bill 132-21, and it has been tabled indefinitely. So we're going to move on to the next one. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Bill 103-22. Clerk Jones, will you please give Bill 03-22 a second reading?
Okay. 0322, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1701 Kendall Street, Councilmanic District Number 6 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, Chair. This bill came before the Zoning and Annexation Committee earlier this afternoon, and it comes to the committee as a whole with a favorable recommendation.
Is the petitioner present? And I ask that you state your name and address and share with us key points regarding the bill that is before us.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Council. Joseph Molnar, zoning specialist, offices on the 14th floor of the County City Building.
Could you
I know
please
most
speak
of
up,
you-
Mr. Molnar?
Oh, I'm sorry. Joseph Molnar, offices on the 14th floor of the County City Building. I know most of you saw this earlier today, so I'll try to be brief. This is for a special exception to allow for a duplex at 1701 Kendall Street on a vacant lot about a block north of Our Lady of Hungary School. Here is the population trend for the neighborhood over the past 50 or 60 years. It's been relatively flat with a slight decrease and down about 20% since 1970, which has left some vacant lots, unfortunately, including this one here, which is the lot in question today. The house that was on this lot was demolished in 2006. Here is another view of the lot. And this is a potential site plan submitted by the petitioner. They're looking to do the duplex, but keep the zoning U1 Urban Neighborhood 1. It was the opinion of the staff that the proposed construction of the 2-unit dwelling will further complement the existing housing stock in the surrounding area and fit into the existing setting, as well as reactivating a vacant lot and providing needed housing to the Rum Village neighborhood. The staff had a favorable recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Board of Zoning Appeals is sending it to you as well with a favorable recommendation, and I know the petitioner, David, is on the line as well. Be happy to answer any questions.
Petitioner, would you please state your name and address and share with us?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes, my name is David Njoroge. My address is 3131 Springbrook Drive, South Bend, Indiana. Yes, I think the summary you've heard is accurate. We're looking to put, possibly a duplex in that corner. We are looking at the design to make sure it works well with the area. So yes, I think it would be a good addition, and I think once we have a good design, then we'll decide whether to stick with a duplex or just do a single unit. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council members, do you have any questions of the petitioners? Nobody? Any of our council members that's virtual? All right, no hands, all right. Well, at this time, we'll go to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 03-22?
Okay, I have Jason Banicki. Jason, if you would unmute yourself, state your name and your address for the record, please.
Jason Banicki, 3822 Ford Street, just similar to the property over on Ford Street just about a month ago or so. I'm a big proponent of these duplex type housings in urban neighborhoods. And I guess I do have one question about this process because I had pulled up the updated zoning ordinance, and I'm reading in section 22-303.03 and it shows that duplexes are permitted building type in urban one neighborhoods. So I was just wondering why we're this is the second time we've had to do a special exception for those when they're permitted uses. But otherwise, love this kind of addition to these neighborhoods. I think they add character. I believe they help keep housing costs down and just provide good uses for empty lots.
All right, petitioner, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that for Jason. He's right. So the zoning ordinance is kind of split up in two different ways that you can build on your property. So under U1, duplex is an allowed building type, but in order to have the use of a 2-unit multi-dwelling, you do need to go through the special exception process. We do split up into both building types, which have their own then transparency rules and so forth, and then the use itself. So it's a little complicated. We are, though, as council, during the ZNA committee meeting about a week ago, we are starting discussions on maybe allowing the duplexes in U1 by right, so they won't have to go through this process. And that's a conversation we're looking forward to expanding with council as the year goes on.
Okay. Clerk Jones, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
I don't see anyone in the audience that is expressing interest to speak in opposition of Bill 0322.
Point of order, I thought I saw someone type in the chat to speak in favor.
Actually, it's
No, it's a female.
Mr. Kane Kantajewski, but I believe he wants to speak on 2203.
Let me see, I don't think it was
Is
Kane.
that-
I thought it was a female I saw.
Yes, one of those two.
We're good.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's Kane. Thank you.
All right. So Clerk Jones, you said there was no one wishing to speak in opposition?
No, there isn't.
At this point, the public hearing on Bill 03-22 is now closed. Council members, do you want to make any statements regarding Bill 03-22? Is there any council members online?
I would.
Okay. Vice President Nisgowski?
Thank you, Councilman Lee. Yeah, I just wanted to thank the builder for investing in the 6th District, bringing new housing to the area that also really complements the neighborhood plan that we just haven't quite all finalized, but I can tell you through the discussions we've had, this really fits in with the neighborhood plan there. So just really excited about this project and bringing new homes to the 6th District. So thank you very much.
Anyone else?
President White has her hand up.
Okay. Councilwoman White?
I would like to thank the developer for his commitment to not only our city, but the 6th District. If I heard correctly, this lot has been vacant and since 2006. And we know that it's very important as we begin to look at our neighborhoods and from a housing perspective, economic perspective, that as we look at our vacant lots, they do present great opportunities for us for infill. So I just want to thank him and look forward to the project as it moves forward.
Thank you very much. And I would just like to say that it is important that to acknowledge the fact that we have a piece of land that has been vacant, and now is going to be an opportunity for 2 families and a duplex to live and share in that neighborhood, and that is important as we're looking to address the issue of affordable housing. So, well, I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 103-22.
I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Yes,
No, I don't, I'm sorry.
it's 0322.
We have to have it sent to the full council with a recommendation.
Mhm.
Oh,
Move to send to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
all right. It's Valentine's night. Everybody's on it. There's it's been the motion and been second. Clerk Jones, will you call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax, Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right. Bill 03-22 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Next bill is Bill 06-22. Clerk Jones, would you please give Bill 06-22 a second reading?
Yes. 0622, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending ordinance number 10817-21, which fixes maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of the City of South Bend for calendar year 2022 to establish 2 new full-time positions and amend various titles and salaries of existing full-time positions.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, there is, Chair. That was in Personnel and Finance Committee today, and it was given a favorable recommendation to the Committee of the Whole.
Is the petitioner present? And I ask that you state your name and address and share with us key points regarding this bill that's before us.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Dan Parker, City Controller. My office is on the 12th floor of the County City Building. I am going to run through a short presentation. I think most council members have now seen this presentation twice, so this will be third time. So it'll be very, very brief, but for the public and anybody else who's present, I will just highlight what this Bill 622 does. Bill 622 is a proposed amendment to the 2022 non-bargaining salary ordinance. And summary of what the bill and the adjustments that it makes. All proposed position titles and salary amounts that are proposed in this bill were contained in the originally filed non-bargaining salary ordinance back in August or September of 2021, with one exception, which is a proposed increase for the Chief Innovation Officer to mirror a proposed increase for the Executive Director of Community Investment that we'll talk about in just a second. All proposed changes relate to existing operations and serve the goal of good government. So this is in contrast to some of the proposed positions that were in the initially filed salary ordinance back in the fall of 2021, which related to the positions that related to the implementation of ARP programs. All of the proposed salary changes, title changes, and new positions in this salary ordinance relate to just our existing operations and serving the public in the ways that we already do, making sure that we're able to retain and recruit employees into positions that are already in existence. The really important thing about this bill is that all of the changes in this bill are already included in the past 2022 budget, so no budget amendments are required for this bill. And in terms of the changes specifically present in this bill, there are 2 proposed new positions that don't exist currently in the 2022 salary ordinance, and then 19 adjustments to existing positions, new titles or salary adjustments. For those 19 positions, the reasoning behind those 19 changes that we made, as opposed to looking at any of the other 420 or so non-bargaining positions that we have in the city, we really looked for these specific positions as equity, retention, and recruitment concerns. So making sure that we were staying competitive both in the free market as competitive as we can be, as well as being equitable with positions within the government. And then also there's a number of positions that went through a consolidation or reorganization of responsibilities over the past year, and we would like to update the titles and the salaries to reflect the new responsibilities of those positions. On the new position side, there are 2 new positions. The first one is the Deputy Director of Community Investment. The 2022 salary cap for this position would be $103,691. All of the numbers in here are salary caps, not actual salaries. So that's important to note. This is the maximum amount that this position would be eligible for. The position would assist in the management and strategic leadership of the Department of Community Investment and really help expand the reach of that executive director to address what again and again during the budget hearings and during the budget cycle come up, and we heard from the mayor earlier today, come up as the most important, or some of the most important things that we work on in the community: affordable housing, small business support, economic development, those kinds of things. And really important from the administration's perspective is that this establishment really mimics a leadership model that's proven effective. So almost every other city department, really every other city department has this leadership model where there's a department head and then a deputy to expand the reach of that department head and to assist in the strategic leadership of the department. And it's proven to work, and it works well. And so this would be essentially just continuing that proven track record into the Department of Community Investment. The second new position in this proposed bill is a neighborhood grant specialist with a 2022 salary cap of $53,341. This is really all around grant management. So the Department of Community Investment receives a multitude of federal, state, and local grants, and then there's also new opportunities that we're expecting to come at both the federal and the state levels. The mayor talked about the really historic amount of funding that's available and that we expect to continue to become available over the next number of years. And so this position would really focus on researching, identifying, and applying for that new funding and making sure that we are able to bring those dollars into the city and have a centralized place and source for coordinating that research and application process. Once the applications have been submitted, and if we are awarded the funding, it would also be technical assistance to departments as well as associated organizations that we work with to administer the grants and get the money out into the community. And then also working on compliance monitoring and reporting for those grants. So those are the two new positions. In terms of the revised positions, there are 19 of them. And again, I will go quickly through them because we did talk about them in committee earlier today. Supervisor, accounts payable. This is essentially bringing that position up to roughly close to, not quite at, but close to where we've seen the 20th percentile of similar positions out in the marketplace. So this CFS 20th percentile is referencing a report from Creative Financial Staffing that they put out every year that looks at the salaries and salary positions in the marketplace for financial and IT positions. And it's geographically adjusted to our geography. So this is in our area. This is 55,625 for this AP manager position is what their report suggests is the 20th percentile of earnings. That means that 80% of people in that position earn more than that amount. And so really, again, we're not trying to be competitive with the private sector, but we are trying to get close to that 20th percentile number so that we can at least be in the ballpark of what people would expect to see in these types of positions for retention and recruitment. In the fire department, there's a preventive maintenance coordinator 2 position, which is essentially not only to allow for some growth in that position, which is currently a coordinator 1, and allow for an expansion of responsibilities, but also get us a little bit closer to where we see other maintenance positions in the city in the upper 40s, low 50s range. And then in venues, parks, and arts, there's a proposed increase for the director of facilities and grounds to $84,000. This is really looking at the other division director salaries in the city. When I say division director, I mean one level below department head. So leading large divisions, very important operations for the city. The average division director salary is $82,261. So the director of facilities and grounds is a little bit low there. And this is also a very large department and a very critical one that takes care of all the parks throughout the city. And so just trying to establish some equity there. In innovation and technology, there's 3 proposed changes. Chief Innovation Officer is to bring that salary up to be a little bit more commensurate with other department heads. So you can see other department heads are in the 120 to 130 range. And so the increase in both the Chief Innovations Officer and you'll see in a second in the Executive Director of Community Investment is really to make sure we're able to recruit and retain the top talent at those higher level positions and make sure that there's equity among department heads there. For the other IT positions, again, going back to that creative financial staffing report, on the manager of applications position, as well as on the applications developer positions, these increases help, but they really don't even get us to the 20th percentile of the CFS report. These are very in-demand positions, and it's very difficult to get even people to even look at these positions at the salary levels that they're at right now, let alone want to apply and come join the city. Again, we're not trying to be competitive with the private sector, obviously, because these are not getting us towards the midpoint by any stretch, but at least get us to a point where we're in the ballpark of what people are looking for from a salary perspective. And then on the Department of Community Investment, again, same thing as I mentioned earlier, in the executive director, getting that position a little bit closer to where other department heads are. And then for the 2 project managers, just making their position salaries equal to what the citywide project manager title is, which is a title that we use in a variety of different areas. On the other side of the equation, the consolidation and reorganization of responsibilities, admin and finance went through a reorganization over the past year where we actually had a net decrease of 1 FTE and saved money overall, but with that came differing responsibilities for especially our division director level. And so we wanted to really make sure that those new responsibilities and new position scopes were aligned with salaries. And so that's the reasoning for the proposed changes on the admin and finance side. On the Department of Community Investment, this is simply a flip from the chief planner salary cap to the building commissioner salary cap. That's to reflect a new organizational structure where the building commissioner actually reports up to the chief planner, and therefore their salary should reflect that responsibility shift. And then lastly, on the public works side in water, this is the shift of an existing system specialist position into a more expansive role for cross connection and water loss, and asking for a slight increase in the salary there to reflect that expansion of responsibilities. So that's what's in the bill, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that council members have.
Council members, do you have any questions of the petitioner? No? Okay. All right. At this time, we'll go to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 06-22?
I don't see anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of this bill.
Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition?
There is one person present wishing to speak in opposition. Her name is Allison Minsberger. Allison, if you would unmute yourself and state your name and your address for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Allison Minsberg, and I live at 2633 Arrowhead Drive. I have a couple concerns with the bill. One is that the listing of staff that is provided is not up to date. It includes positions that no longer exist, and it includes, I think it's actually missing some positions that are currently filled at the city. As to the pay itself, there are many soft skill positions at the city that do not have private sector equivalents and are currently being compensated in the city at levels higher than are typical for civil service. Some of these are compensated at higher levels than hard science or tech positions requiring similar or greater education and or experience. For instance, the sustainability director, I believe, is compensated or has a maximum compensation in the 70,000 range. And yet we know that IT is, as Mr. Parker mentioned, not compensated anywhere near the 20 percentile for pay. And those positions are hard and to maintain, recruit, and it's also obviously important that those stay filled. There's also concerns I have that a very large differential between management and staff responsible for implementing those changes that management identifies can reduce employee satisfaction, particularly when management communicates poorly with general employees. For example, code enforcement has recently lost additional employees, and I hope that council will look at what the culture might be that's contributing to that beyond just wages. IT is also substantially raising director salaries to make things more equitable, but not putting similar dollar amounts into the positions that actually do the work to help departments with their IT needs. I think that, as Mr. Parker mentioned, it is critical to bring those IT positions up, and I question why those are not being brought up, and instead those dollar amounts are being devoted to raising the salary cap for the director. Why not focus first on the compensation for critical hands-on staff, reduce turnover for those key positions, and help stabilize the ability of the city to do its job, keep its inventories, and have its Excel spreadsheets up to date, and the ability for city residents to get onto a council meeting on their first attempt instead of their 8th. Thank you.
Mr. Parker, would you care to respond?
Yes, absolutely. So to the very first comment, the presentation that I went through was simply a summary of the changes in the salary ordinance. The attachment to the bill itself is the most up-to-date position listing, and it reflects what council passed during the 2022 budget process with just these changes included. So I'm not sure what the concern was there, but that is the most up-to-date version of that.
If I may interrupt,
the second question.
Point of order. Your time is exhausted, and for the petitioner to respond. Thank you.
In terms of the concerns with IT positions and wanting to make sure that we're remaining competitive with those, I couldn't agree more. And so we actually do look to try to see which of the positions that we have, particularly in information technology, but really across the board, need to be more competitive in terms of wages. And there's a lot of data that goes into that. The CFS report that I mentioned is one piece of that. How difficult it is to recruit when positions come open is another piece of that. So there's a lot of different analyses that go into the proposals for increases. But one of the driving forces behind bringing this bill before council is to address the very concern that you mentioned, or that Ms. Meinsberg mentioned. So that I do agree with that we need to make sure that we're compensating the individuals in all departments, especially the competitive departments where it's difficult to recruit, like IT, appropriately.
Okay. At this point, the public hearing on Bill 06-22 is now closed. Council members, would you like to make any statements regarding Bill 06-22? Councilman Wax.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Mr. Parker for the presentation, and I just wanted to express appreciation to the administration. I know the salary ordinance didn't go exactly the way they wanted in budget season last year, and at least from my perspective, I appreciated that they took a fresh look at it and came back with the priorities in that rather than trying to stick with the original. So I appreciate the coming together to hopefully find an area that that everybody agrees on. So thank you.
Vice President Niskowski.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank Mr. Parker for the presentation, the third time bringing it before the council, and actually revisiting it, meeting some of the questions that were had by the council, as Councilman Eli spoke of. And in reference to recruitment and retainment, bringing pay equity to these positions. So I just want to let you know I'm really in support of the bill. I want to thank you for taking the time to really think it through, comb over everything, and then bring it back before the council. So thank you so much.
Any other statements from council members? If not, I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 06-22.
I'd like to make a motion to send it to council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Yes. Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
President White. I'm sorry, President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Bill 06-22 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. I will now entertain a motion to rise from the committee of the whole and report back to the full council.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved in second. Clerk Jones, please take the roll.
Yes. Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right, the motion carries.
Thank you. The full council is now back in session. We are on the bills that are on third reading. This is the portion of our meeting where bills are given a third reading and action is taken regarding the bills that were heard during the committee of the whole. Clerk Jones, will you give Bill 03-22 a third reading?
Yes. 0322, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1701 Kendall Street, Councilmanic District Number 6, in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Councilman Lee, is there a recommendation for the committee of the whole regarding Bill 03-22?
Yes, President McBride, the recommendation is favorable.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 03-22.
I move for passage.
Second.
Second.
Clerk Jones, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Bill 03-22 has been adopted. Clerk Jones, would you give Bill 06-22 a third reading?
Yes. Third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending ordinance number 10817-21, which fixes maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of the City of South Bend for calendar year 2022 to establish 2 new full-time positions and amend various titles and salaries of existing full-time positions.
Thank you. Councilman Lee, is there a recommendation for the committee of the whole regarding Bill 06-22?
Yes, it was in the committee of the whole, and it is favorable.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 06-22.
Move for passage.
Second.
Second.
Clerk Jones, would you call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Bill 06-22 has been adopted. Resolutions. This is the portion of the council meeting where the Common Council hears bills filed as proposed resolutions. The title of each proposed resolution is read by the city clerk. A report from the committee chairperson of the standing committee to which the bill was referred to for an advisory review and recommendations is given. During the public portion on each proposed resolution, members of the public are invited to address the council. We ask that you please give your name, address, and comments on the bill. If you have any questions, they will be addressed by the presenter during their rebuttal. Each member of the public is limited to 5 minutes, with those speaking in favor going first, followed by those in opposition. Then a 5-minute rebuttal for the presenter of the bill is given. Resolution 22-03. Yes, thank you. I would like to entertain a motion that Bill 2203 and 2207 be read together, but then voted on separately.
I'd like to make a motion that resolution 22-03 and 22-07 be heard together for purpose of the public hearing.
Second.
The roll, please.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
President McBride,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Clerk Jones, will you read Bill 2203, please?
2203, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as intersection of Calvert Street and Renewable Drive, South Bend, Indiana, 46613, as an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 9-year real property tax abatement for Jim Farms South Bend LLC.
Clerk Jones, could you also read Bill 22-07?
2207, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as intersection of Calvert Street and Renewable Drive, South Bend, Indiana, 46613, as an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 5-year personal property tax abatement for Jim Farms, South Bend LLC.
Thank you. Is there a presenter? And if so, could you please state your name and address for the record?
Yep. Paul Masternardi, 1581 County Road 34, Ruthven, Ontario.
Excuse me, we cannot hardly hear you.
Sorry, is this better?
Yes.
At it's Paul Masternardi, 1581 County Road 34, Ruthven, Ontario.
Could you speak directly in your mic? When you fade away, we can't hardly hear you.
Sorry, yes, I'm not.
That's a
on
lot
computer.
better. Thank you.
Paul Masternardi, 1581 County Road 34, Ruthven, Ontario.
You can continue on with your presentation.
Yes, yeah, we're looking for the approval for a potential project here in South Bend.
Thank you. I would also like to ask ZNA, do you have any additional comments to make?
This is Angelina Bila, Director of Business Development, 14th floor, County Building. We are presenting today one of the largest project. It's a project related to constructions of new greenhouses, and petitioner GM Farms South Bend is proposing to invest 60 million in new construction of greenhouses and also 118 million in equipment. The project also will create approximately 110 jobs. DCI staff reviewed and recommended a tax abatement for real property for 9 years and 5 years for personal property. And as Paul Mastronardi just presented himself, so Paul, if you have anything to add, any additional information about the project, yeah, please feel free to add it.
Yeah, no, we're excited to potentially develop and construct the greenhouse down here in South Bend. This is one of the criterias will help make the project successful down there. So we're looking for the approval on this.
Thank you so much. And I want to clarify, Angelina, thank you so much. You're with the Department of Community Investment. So for the record, I misspoke and said ZNA, and I knew that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
At this time, I would ask for public comments. It will be open up to the,
We have,
point of
Well, I-
order, I'm sorry.
Just questions from the council first, President.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Attorney Palmer. I would like to see if there are any questions from the council regarding Resolution 2203 or Resolution 2207. Councilman Warner?
Yeah, it doesn't appear, Ms. Bilo, that any of the numbers or commitments have changed from when we heard this 2 weeks ago. Is that correct?
Yes, nothing changes in our recommendation with regard to tax abatement scheduled, and all other terms. So everything remains the same.
Thank you.
Yes, President McBride, Ms. Bilo, could you just clarify for us, as you did in committee this afternoon, the clarification, the relationship between Gem Farms and Red Sun Farm?
Well, yes, petitioner provided a letter providing some clarifications on the org structure, and Gem Farms South Bend will conduct or will have a business here in South Bend, and they don't have any relationships with Red Suns, which is Canadian entity.
Yeah, this is just clarifying. This is Santiago Garces, Executive Director of the Department of Community Investment, with offices in the 14th floor of the City County building. As we mentioned during the committee, and just reemphasizing what Angelina is saying, there is a relationship between Gem Farms and Red Sun Farms. In the case of this project, Red Sun Farms is not involved in the project, and Paul issued an apology about the confusion, and then they resubmitted with making sure that the references to Red Sun were not there. But as we mentioned during the committee, there is no impact on the analysis on the construction. And as we mentioned during the committee as well, the tax abatement is an incentive that, by virtue of how it works, there is no benefit provided to the recipient unless they construct what they have agreed to. So again, it has some inherent safety mechanisms that allay our concerns, and based on the information that Paul presented, that we feel that nothing has changed substantially, and we recommend the tax abatement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council? We see any hands in the chat from council?
I don't see any hands in the chat.
Thank you. I will turn it over to the public portion. Clerk Jones, do you see anyone wishing to speak in favor of Bill 22-03 or 2207?
Yes, we have two speakers, the first being Kane Kantrajewski and the second being Jeff Ray. Mr. Kantrajewski, if you could unmute yourself and state your name and that address for the record, please.
Hi, Kane Kantrajewski, 514 West LaSalle. And I just wanted to speak up and say that I really hope you guys approve all three of these resolutions, actually. I've worked on the South Olive stretch there where this project's going to be located, and I think it would be phenomenal for the area. So yeah, anything we could do as a city to support this would be phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Ray?
Hi, good evening. Jeff Ray, President and CEO, Southland Regional Chamber, with offices at 101 North Michigan Street in downtown South Bend. Just here to voice approval, really, of proposed bills 2203, 2207, 2205, and 2209. related to GEM and Greenleaf Holdco. Generally, feel like these are phenomenal projects. The Mastronardi name in this case is well known in the produce industry, have built a strong reputation in Canada and in the U.S. and the projects they've done. The staff, I think, has done a great job in due diligence and in understanding this. This record is one of the largest single investments in the community in quite some time. We think it's great. It puts South Bend on the map. It's a great generator of new jobs and capital investment, and we think could be a real catalyst to other activity here. No tax abatements aren't always easy to consider, but think that the recommendations here are prudent and urge your support of those 4 bills as you're considering those tonight.
Thank you so much. Clerk Jones, do you see anyone in the chat wishing to speak in opposition?
No, I don't see anyone that's wishing to speak in opposition of this.
Thank you. At this time, the public portion is now closed. Council, final comments on Bill 2203 or 2207?
President McBride, do you wish for a committee report at any time? Or would you like me to include that in my comments?
You can add it now.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. President McBride, both these bills were heard in community investment this afternoon and were sent to council with a favorable recommendation. Additionally, I just want to share, I couldn't be more excited about both these projects, GEM Farm and the expansion at Pure Green Farm, Greenleaf. South Bend was home to Innovation with the Studebaker plant, and it's exciting to think that again, South Bend could land this GEM Farm project and the expansion with Greenleaf, and look to grow lettuce and tomatoes and strawberries 12 months of the year. Who would have thought decades ago that would be the case in South Bend, Indiana?
Thank you so much. And thank you for having my back on your committee report. I appreciate that. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion for. Oh, you have another hand?
President or Vice President
Yes.
Niskatsky.
Oh, Vice President Niskatsky. I didn't see it there. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you, President McBride. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment, being the district representative for this project, and how meaningful it really is to not only the whole city of South Bend and the Midwest, but specifically the 6th District. It's creating a new industry, as we said, new jobs, $240 million of investment is it's just amazing. And for us to be able to have any type of input in generating economic development for this project, to me, it's almost, to me, is once in a lifetime. I don't know I'm going to see another 240 million dumped into the 6th District, but I say dumped because we could be the salad bowl of the Midwest. But I would like to thank Mr. Paul Mastronardi for selecting our city, this location, and for his hopefully his substantial investment in moving the project forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Niskatsky and 6th District Representative.
We need separate motions, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Lee.
I just want to echo what Councilwoman Niskowski said. This is exciting. South Bend was the place of Studebaker, Singer Sewing Machine, the South Bend Stove Company. The city used to make stuff, and so for us to be in this position, to be able to bring such great technology and innovation to our city, this is a very exciting moment. And I'm not going to even do a lettuce joke, but I guess I will. Let us see great things happen in the 6th District and in the city of South Bend. Let us all right, there we go.
You're out of order.
Thank you, Councilman Lee.
That's great.
At this time, I would like to entertain a motion for Resolution 2203.
I move for passage of Resolution 2203.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, could you read the roll, please?
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. The bill is passed. I would like to entertain a motion.
I move for passage of Bill Resolution 2207.
Second.
I second.
Clerk Jones, roll, please.
Yes. Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Bill has been adopted. I would like to entertain a motion for Resolution 2205 and 2209 be read together.
I make a motion that Resolution 2205 and Resolution 2209 be heard together for purposes of public hearing.
Second.
Clerk Jones, the roll, please.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
President McBride.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Is there a committee report?
There is, President McBride, both bills 2205, 2205 and 2209 were heard in Community Investment Committee this afternoon and comes to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Clerk Jones, could you read 2205, please?
2205, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 3820 West Calvert Street, South Bend 46613, as an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 9-year real property tax abatement for Greenleaf Hoe Company.
Thank you. Clerk Jones, could you also read Bill 22-09?
2209, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 3820 West Calvert Street, South Bend, Indiana, as an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 5-year personal property tax abatement for Greenleaf Hoe Company.
Thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Yes, this
Yes.
is Joe McGuire, 3820 West Calvert Street. I am the CEO of Greenleaf Holco.
Thank you. And the sponsor, Ms. Billow.
Yes, Angelina Biller, Director of Business Development, 14th floor, county building. This project, it's an addition to the existing facility located at Culver Street. Company, a petitioner, Greenleaf Holdco, proposing to invest additional $12 million for building new greenhouses and also purchasing and installing new equipment. The total private investment for purchasing equipment is about $68 million. In addition to 25 existing jobs, company is planning to hire about 75 additional jobs. DCI staff reviewed our petition and recommended 9 years for real property tax abatement and 5 years for personal property tax abatement. And, we do believe that this project upon completion, will be a great example of economic recovery, and also it would add diversity to our economy here in South Bend. And as the petitioner stated, he is here on a call. Joe, please feel free to add any additional information about the project that we are presenting tonight.
Sure. Yeah, so we're currently operating on 3.5 acres, and we're at about 50% capacity, producing extremely beautiful lettuce. I've been working in this industry for 32 years, and I've never seen such beautiful lettuce. And we remain very confident. I couldn't resist. That this is the future. It's innovation in how we can grow and provide local food supply, and not just food supply, but very healthy food supply, and give an alternative to the legacy supply chains from California, Arizona, and Mexico. And the market is definitely indicating that, and the investment dollars are starting to follow suit. And so, yes, we're very excited about being here in South Bend. Like I said, we're already up and operating. Product is in retails, especially Martin's and Kroger around here, and yeah, we're having good success, and so we look forward to expanding.
Thank you so much. At this time, I will turn to council if you have any questions.
So it's going to end up bringing it in 100 jobs total, and another $80 million in investment. That's awesome. It really is.
Thank you. Any of our council online with their hands up? At this time, as public comments, Clerk Jones, do you see anyone wishing to speak in favor?
I don't see anyone wishing to speak in favor of this bill, of this resolution.
2205 or 2209?
No.
Is there anyone speaking in opposition of 2205 or 2209?
There's no one expressing interest to speak in opposition as well.
Thank you so much. I'll turn back to council for comments. Councilman Warner?
Yeah, my comment, Joe, I've been out there for a tour twice, and Joe is a great ambassador for the produce industry. This is very exciting between these two projects that right here in South Bend on the west side in that field, we could become the supplier of produce for the Midwest. And, he's already producing 2 million pounds a year of lettuce. I buy a container at Martin's every week. Everybody should. It's beautiful, as Joe said. And Mr. Ray, if you're still on, Joe is a great ambassador for what he does and for the community. He has a passion and wants to do this here in our community. And I feel honored that we have this opportunity to be able to support him with this little bit of incentive. It's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Tomas Morgan.
I couldn't agree more with Councilman Troy Warner. Mr. McGuire, I also want to add, you gained the vote of our family. I have a husband and a son who don't care for salad and lettuce, quite honestly, but a couple of weeks ago when I told them, when I asked if they'd have a salad, and they both said, "No, thanks, Mom." And I said, "Well, I have Pure Grain Farm lettuce." And my son Benjamin said, "Oh, I'll have that." So that is the only lettuce I'll be buying from now on. Thank you.
Councilman Wax.
Thank you. And I'll also refrain from any puns, but I just want to thank the petitioners for their ongoing investment, previous investment, continuing investment. I also had the opportunity to come see what's going on there. Fascinating, really exciting, and had the opportunity to sample the product and can affirm that as well. So I'm just excited about this and want to wish you all the best of luck going forward and success.
Is there anyone from council on the virtual that would wish to speak?
I would, President McBride.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep, thank you. I would just like to echo everything that my fellow council members would have said and how excited that I am about this project. Fresh produce, grown locally, can be sourced locally, buy local, shop local, and the amount of jobs that it's going to creating and the new industry. And Mr. McGuire is a wonderful advocate and representative for the lettuce in the area, and is to think they're going to possibly grow strawberries and tomatoes and just expanding the hydroponic farming. It's just exciting. So I just would like to give my sincere thank you for investing in our community and again for investing in the west side of South Bend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, President McBride.
This is just for Councilman Lee and Councilman Wax. Let us prepare to vote. I'm a horrible joker. Clerk
I would like
Jones?
to make a motion
Yes.
for the adoption of Resolution 2207.
Second.
2205.
2205, I'm sorry.
Second.
The roll, please.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
President McBride,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Resolution 2205, Bill 2205 has been adopted. Clerk Jones? No, I would like to entertain a motion for Bill 2209.
I move for passage of Resolution 2209.
I second.
The roll, please.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
President McBride,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 2209 has been adopted. Bills on first reading. Clerk Jones? 07-22.
Okay,
Clerk Jones, would you give Bill 07-22 a first reading?
yes. First reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, adding section 14.5-18 to Article 3, Chapter 14.5 of the South Bend Municipal Code, providing for approval or ratification by the South Bend Common Council of any contract executed by the city, including city-owned or operated utilities.
Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 07-22 to Personnel and Finance.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Clerk Jones, the roll, please.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
President McBride,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished business from council at this time? Thank you. The new business, I have a couple of announcements. The WNDU interviews kicked off today. I was on there this morning. If you would like to be a part of the rotation for council getting back on the interviews once a month, please email me and let me know. The only criteria that they recommend is for you to be vaccinated to be able to be in person. Also, as we did last year, the council, we will be giving out hat, gloves, scarves, and toiletries to the homeless facilities that we have. I think there were 6 last year. The Motels for Now program, Broadway Church, Michiana 5, Our Lady of the Road, the Hope and the Homeless Center. And if you would like to be a part of that, please let me know. And I did contact the warming centers to see if we had any walk-ins, and was pleased to know that there were not any walk-ins that went to any of our public locations that are deemed warming centers. Our next meeting and going forward until anything changes, and we pray that it does not, all of our meetings will be open to the public going forward. And the Mlk Breakfast is at 7:30 on Monday morning at the Century Center. And also, the city has expanded their open Wi-Fi. There are nomination forms for mom and pop shops, barber shops, or any open public spaces to nominate to have connectivity for our community to have accessibility to Wi-Fi for employment opportunities or homework or any type of communication. So we encourage you to share it with your district and encourage them to fill out a form. Are there any other new business?
President McBride, I'd just like to make two announcements or reminders. The Community Campus Advisory Coalition meets tomorrow, Tuesday, February 15th from 3:30 to 4:30. Following that, the Innovation Technology Committee meets for their organizational meeting, and also the department will provide their 2021 annual report, and that is at 5 o'clock.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Council online? At this time, we will go to the privilege of the floor. Again, disrespectful, rude, or disruptive speech or actions will not be tolerated, as well as verbal attacks on any person may result in individual without notice forfeiting the remainder of his or her allotted time. Individuals who wish to address the council must state their name and residential address. Individuals will be limited to 3 minutes only. The maximum time limit for this portion of the meeting shall be 30 minutes. Individuals should not be permitted to address topics which the council has heard previously tonight on the agenda. The council president may assign a topic raised by an individual during the privileges of the floor to the appropriate council member, and or request the city clerk to contact a member of the city administration for review, and topics assigned shall be responded to at the next scheduled council meeting. Clerk Jones, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak for the privilege of the floor?
Yes, there is. We have Sharon Banicki. Sharon, if you would mute yourself and state your name and your address for the record, please.
Sharon Banicki, 3822 Ford Street. My concern is mostly aimed at Karen. I believe we were the recipient of lights down Chicago and Illinois and light up the streets. Chicago, I went out there one night. It was wonderful. It was so lit up, but it only lasted one night, and then all the lights went out. Who do we contact to get those lights back working? And they didn't put one right close to the corner of Chicago and Ford, and I kind of understand it. Unfortunately, that leaves a very dark spot on the street, and that's just so happens to be where all our drug dealers like to go and do their drug deals. So I don't know if there's a way to get one more light there. I mean, there is one right on the corner of Chicago and Ford, but it's aimed on Ford Street, so Chicago's dark.
Does that conclude your question, Ms. Banicki?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will make sure that we get a response to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, Clerk Jones?
No, that exhausts the list.
Thank you. With that, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll work
Thank you.
on.
Good night.
Good night. And I'll work with you. So I'm the President McBride on the lights, because I know that they were requested and they were installed. So